At 5 a.m. on September 6, 2025, 10 Ukrainian drones were just 57 seconds away from striking Europe's largest nuclear power facility. It was a target so sensitive, so heavily restricted, that the Russian guards watching over it had grown careless, convinced that no one would ever attempt such a move. They were about to discover how wrong they were. This wasn't a barrage of cruise missiles. Instead, it was a swarm of KH-7 drones, each weighing barely 1.5 pounds and costing only about $400. Through the lead drone's onboard camera, the objective was already visible: the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant's Training and Simulation Center. On the operator's display, a small icon blinked steadily. Distance to the active reactor core, 984 feet. Let's make this clear. Ukraine wasn't trying to cause a meltdown. This was far more calculated. The drones were aimed at the plant's nerve center, the $50 million simulation complex where Russian technicians trained to avoid triggering another Chernobyl. Taking it out would cripple Russia's ability to run its most valuable energy asset, a risky but potentially decisive strike. If you were the mission planner, would you approve this target or consider it a gamble too dangerous to take? 9 miles away, inside a concealed bunker near Orehov, a Ukrainian technician was guiding the drone swarm with a battered old laptop. His signal, a 5.8 GHz frequency-hopping broadcast, was changing 1,000 times per second, slipping past Russia's electronic warfare nets like a ghost in the machine. On his tactical display, the nuclear plant appeared as a fortress, a massive red shield representing the Krasuka 4 system spread across 186 miles. Overhead, the S-400's Gravestone radar swept the skies. On paper, this stronghold was impenetrable. But this 3-month-long operation, designed by Ukraine's 47th Drone Brigade, didn't start in the skies. It began beneath the murky waters of the Dnipro River. The goal was simple, yet deadly. How could 10 tiny drones get past $1 billion defense wall? The solution? Don't fly over it, slip under. At 4:30 a.m., hidden by thick fog, a Marichka AUV launched quietly from a small fishing boat and disappeared underwater. For half an hour, it crept like a crocodile in the midnight river, unseen, unheard. Then, at 4:55, the noisy part of the plan began. 2 modified Neptune missiles roared skyward from near Zaporizhia. Their target wasn't the nuclear plant, but a Russian BM-30 Smerch rocket system nearby. To civilians, just a truck with rockets, but to drones, it was a massive shotgun that could wipe them all from the sky. Ukraine eliminated it before the real mission even began. While Russian troops scrambled to understand why their rocket system had just been destroyed, the second step unfolded. Inside Russian-occupied Enerhodar, a 5-man Ukrainian special operations team, Ghosts, living under cover for weeks among the enemy, carried out their part. Their task was to deal with the crude but effective anti-drone nets circling the facility. Using a handheld jammer, they created a silent opening. They were the lockpickers in this high-tech heist. At 5 a.m., the Marichka AUV surfaced in reeds just 3.1 miles from the plant. Its hatch opened, releasing 10 KH-7 drones, each armed with a 3.3-pound shaped charge. 8 immediately dropped down to 130 feet, vanishing into ground clutter. 2 others, carrying dummy warheads, climbed to 500 feet, making themselves obvious radar targets. It was a classic fate: distract with one hand, strike with the other. The outer shield of defense, the S-400 Triumph system, worth $200 million and capable of tracking 300 targets, locked onto the 2 decoys. But here's its flaw: designed to intercept bombers, not Sparrow-sized drones. Using it against a 1.5-pound target was like smashing walnuts with a sledgehammer. The next layer was the brute force jamming field of the Krasuka 4, but the drone's signals hopped frequencies constantly, beyond its ability to jam. Overhead, Orlan 10 reconnaissance drones circled, their infrared sensors ideal for spotting tanks, but useless against a submarine drone gliding underwater hours earlier. At 5:01, as the S-400 tracked the decoys, the real key to the attack came alive inside the other 7 drones, an NVIDIA Jetson Nano AI chip, the same kind used in student robotics projects. It gave the drones two game-changing abilities. First, it powered the frequency hopping, dodging the jamming wall. Second, it enabled optical navigation. With GPS blocked, the drones didn't rely on satellites. Their cameras compared the terrain below with preloaded maps. They were flying with eyes, not ears. And unlike signals, landscapes can't be jammed. Each drone's body was lightweight carbon fiber, keeping its total weight just over 1.5 pounds without the warhead. Its high-performance LiPo battery powered both the chip and long flight time. That's why the Marichka could release them miles away, and they still had range to strike. Their small size gave them a radar profile tinier than a bird. The S-400's radar filters ignored small birds to avoid wasting million-dollar missiles. The KH-S-7 hid inside that filter. Russia built a system to kill lions, but snakes had already crawled into the tent. At 5:02, Sergei launched 2 multi-million-dollar missiles, destroying the decoys. To him, a success. To Ukraine, proof the plan was working. But trouble brewed. The Krasuka's power disrupted the decoys' video feeds. Meanwhile, an Orlan 10 drone confirmed the blips, and the S-400 lowered its radar sweep, scanning dangerously close to the hidden swarm. In the Ukrainian operator's bunker, his pulse spiked. If discovered, the mission would fail. Then the Ghost team made their move. At 5:02, 40 seconds, one flipped a switch on a small black box, a counter-electronic warfare device. Instead of blocking the Krasuka, it mimicked and corrupted it, producing localized electronic nonsense. It was like trying to talk while someone nearby screamed random words in your ear. The Russian operator, already distracted by the decoys, was blinded further. Moments later, his missiles struck the decoys, confirming 2 kills. Sergei proudly reported victory, unaware that 7 real drones had slipped through. By 5:03, the drones were inside the final defensive ring. That's when Sergei realized the nightmare. Their path cut between Russian positions and the massive reactor domes. This wasn't just an attack, it was a hostage crisis, with the hostage being potential nuclear disaster. He couldn't risk firing freely. Every missed shot might hit the reactors. His voice shook as he shouted orders. Pantsir turrets swiveled frantically, trying to find clear firing lines. An Mi-28 Havoc pilot, sweating, angled his strafing run away from the plant. That hesitation, seconds of restraint, was Ukraine's only window. But Russia's defenses still responded. A Pantsir shredded one drone. An Mi-28 gunned down another. A second Pantsir destroyed 2 more. Within seconds, 4 drones were gone. The Ukrainian operator, watching helplessly, saw 5, then 6 of his drones vanish. The defense was brutal, even constrained. But one drone survived. Using the chaos of its fallen comrades as cover, it zigzagged unpredictably, slipping through blind spots the gunners couldn't risk firing into. On the operator's screen, concrete rushed past. The target wasn't a big rooftop vent. It was a tiny intake grill on the 3rd floor, no larger than a pizza box. The surgical entry point. Warhead armed, the system blinked. Entering the structure, the operator whispered, guiding it into the dark vent. The feed became a blur of ducts. The drone was inside. Sergei's radar showed nothing. Believing victory secured, he relaxed, unaware the real threat was already within. Inside, the operator flew blind, relying on a memorized 3D layout. Left, right, a short climb, then the server room. At 5:03:43, the drone emerged into view of humming electronics. With a final adjustment, it dove forward. The camera dissolved to static. A digital snap echoed. Secondary ignition confirmed, target dark, the operator said, calm and steady. Outside, guards saw nothing but a puff of smoke from a vent. The building's lights flickered, then went dead. The shaped charge wasn't a bomb, it was a scalpel. A jet of molten copper, 25,000 feet per second, cut through 10 inches of reinforced concrete, vaporizing server racks and severing the power bus. The $50 million training center was crippled. Russian media stayed silent. How could they admit this? Estimates said 18 months and $60 million to rebuild. Until then, Russia couldn't train or certify new reactor operators. They might control the plant physically, but Ukraine had seized its operational future. So here's the question. Would you take that shot? Risking a $400 drone only 984 feet from a nuclear core with a continent's fate on the balance? For the cost of a used car, Ukraine had pulled off a strategic checkmate. They showed you don't need a billion-dollar arsenal to outwit a superpower. Just clever planning, cheap drones, and the nerve of one operator to fly a flawless mission. If you enjoyed watching a billion-dollar fortress fall to a garage-built drone, smash the like button. Share with anyone who loves seeing asymmetric warfare in action or watching a bully get bloodied. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell.